You know the stories, right? The tortoise and the hare, the three little pigs, Hansel and Gretel. We've all heard them. But what if I told you they're way more than just childhood tales? Today, we're going to dig into how these classic fables are packed with some incredibly relevant modern lessons. It's a fair question, isn't it? I mean, in an age with endless streaming shows, video games, you name it, why do we keep coming back to these same super old stories? What gives them this incredible staying power? Well, the answer is actually pretty simple and pretty practical. They're not just stories, they're basically blueprints for survival. Seriously, each one is a little instruction manual, a core strategy for how to make your way in a world that's, well, full of challenges. So let's start with a classic, The Big Race. This is all about one powerful idea, slow and steady wins, or the incredible power of just sticking with it. Okay, so this whole story really just boils down to two completely different ways of thinking. On one hand, you've got the hare. He's all flash, relying on his natural-born talent, his speed. He thinks that's enough. But then you've got the tortoise. His whole game plan is different. It's all about consistent effort, staying calm, and just not stopping. It's pure arrogance versus quiet humility. And this right here, this is the moment everything changes. While the hare is so overconfident that he literally takes a nap mid-race, the tortoise just keeps on plodding along. You gotta imagine he was tired, it was probably hot, but none of that mattered. He just kept his eyes on that finish line. His persistence was so much more powerful than the hare's flashy talent. And of course, it all leads to that lesson we've heard 1,000 times, because it's just so true. Slow and steady wins the race. At the end of the day, humble, consistent work is almost always going to beat lazy talent. Okay, so let's move on to our next survival blueprint. Because, sometimes the biggest threat isn't someone faster than you, it's someone who's a really, really good liar. This section is all about outsmarting deception through critical thinking. So, let's take the story of the 7 young goats. Right from the get-go, their mom warns them about this wolf, who she calls a master of disguise. She gives them specific things to look for: his gruff voice and his black feet. The danger is spelled out very clearly. But here's the thing, this wolf is persistent. First, he tries the door, but his rough voice gives him away. The goats aren't fooled. So what does he do? He goes and eats a piece of chalk to make his voice softer. Then they spot his black paws, so he runs to a baker and gets them covered in white flour. He's adapting, learning from his failures to become a better and better liar. And we see this exact same pattern of deception in another famous story, Hansel and Gretel, or in this version, 2 clever kittens. They're also faced with a trap. This time, it's a house that looks amazing on the outside, made of candy and cake, but it's hiding something deadly inside. And Hansel's response is just pure creative problem solving. First, he drops shiny pebbles to mark their trail home. It's a brilliant plan. But when that fails, he tries again with breadcrumbs. And even when he's captured, he keeps thinking, tricking the witch by holding out a tiny chicken bone so she'll think he's too skinny to eat. He's always thinking one step ahead. But the real checkmate move, the ultimate moment of outsmarting the bad guy, comes from Gretel. When the witch tells her to check the oven, she plays dumb. She pretends she doesn't know how to get in, and she tricks the witch into showing her. And that's it. Game over. She turns the trap back on the person who set it. So we've got persistence and we've got critical thinking. Our last story is going to tie it all together with a really fun modern twist. This is all about building a wolf-proof life and the virtue of preparation. Okay, we all know this one. 3 little pigs, 3 houses. You've got Barnaby, who's all about getting things done fast, throws together a straw house in like an hour and goes off to play. Then there's Baxter, a little more effort, gets his stick house done by lunchtime. But then there's Benjamin. He's the planner. He takes 3 solid days to carefully build a house of bricks. A huge difference in effort. Okay, but here is where this version of the story gets amazing. The big bad wolf, he's not some hungry predator. Nope, he's the neighborhood building safety inspector, just there to do his job. And instead of roaring and threatening, he's shouting things like, "This framing is not up to code," and worrying about safety regulations. It totally changes everything. So that whole huffing and puffing thing, it's just a series of standard wind stress tests. And the results are pretty predictable. The straw house fails instantly, totally unsafe. The stick house doesn't fare much better, structurally unsafe. But Benjamin's brick house, the one he put all that time and effort into, it passes everything, even a full-on hurricane simulation, passes with flying colors. And this gives us a completely new moral to the story. The wolf was never the villain. He was a professional doing his job. And he actually saved the first two pigs from their own shoddy work. The real danger wasn't some external enemy. It was their own choice to take shortcuts. So, after looking at all these familiar stories in a new light, what's the big takeaway? What do these fables for the future really have to teach us right now? It really boils down to three simple, timeless blueprints. From the tortoise, we learn that persistence, that slow, steady effort, will beat raw talent that doesn't try. From the goats and the kittens, we learn about critical thinking, the absolute necessity of looking past what's on the surface to see what's really going on. And finally, from the pigs, we learn about preparation. Doing a job right is always, always better than just doing it fast. And that's really the heart of it all. These are not just simple stories for kids. They're powerful, time-tested strategies for getting by in our own very complex world. Whether you're working on a huge project at work, trying to spot a scam email, or just building something that lasts, these lessons are more relevant than ever. These stories have stuck around for a reason. They tap into something fundamental about how we overcome challenges. And that just leaves us with one last really interesting question to chew on.